Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I'm doing a dog. I'm doing all the dogs. Oh, I'm starting to get weird with it though. So this is Tombow and colored pencil in the wrong colors. So I'm starting to branch out and get strange and try new things, and because I'm starting to get a little bit bored, and we know that's a dangerous place for creative minds to go. So today I'm doing a Scottish Deerhound. I am following the Doggist prompt list from 2024 since I finished 2025's, and I still have a few pages left. I will go through and I should be done by September 20th, and then I will start on one of my hand-stitched tiny sketchbooks that I made and finish out September with those. So let's get started on the Scottish Deerhound. Okay, we are on screen. So far, so successful. Okay, I am using a Caran Luminance colored pencil. This is the Malachite Green. It's a convenience color. It's one I really, really like. It's a really pretty teal. I will say that these are wax-based, the Luminance pencils, and the Faber-Castell Polychromos are oil-based. So I'm going to do a teal-green combo, so sort of analogous colors on the color wheel. They're right next to each other. So I guess a little color theory. I don't know. I'm in a mood. I'm in a mood. I really want to move on to something else. I'm starting to get burned out and a little bored. So yeah. Oh, man, and I'm only laughing just because I do these things to myself, and then I'm like, that's going to be a challenge later on, and I've hit the challenge part. So I'm just going to scribble, and we're going to call it an eyeball. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. I really want to do something else. So this one has the teal color, so I'm probably going to use this color again and just do one color on this, on the gray. Oh, maybe I'll add a little white just for a value range, but can you tell I'm itching to do something else? I really, really am. But I'm trying to still honor this drawing challenge. This is the last of my A4 lecterms from 2021. This bright blue color has been discontinued. I've filled 2 of these. When I'm done with this, there'll be 2 this year. I already have 2 that are filled, and then a pink one. So I have 4. Actually, I had 5. I gave one to my son a couple of years ago. He really wanted a sketchbook, and I told him he could go through mine, and so he grabbed one. And he does the coolest monsters and weird like critters and beasts and beings and mythological things. I wish I could show you, but he's very private and he's not 18, and we respect that not all art needs to be for public consumption. Like sometimes it's just for us, and that's what his art is. It's just for him. He works in graphite only, so his stuff's very monochromatic. And it's so cool. It's so cool. Like, he has a very distinct illustration style. Yeah, and they don't believe me. My kids don't believe me because they see that. I think that's one of the challenges of you like growing up with a parent that is into art and doing art is they see what I create, and then they look at their stuff and they're like, my stuff doesn't look like your stuff. And then I tell them, I'm like, but babes, I've been doing this for decades, and this is my job, and it's just going to look different. It's going to be different. Everybody has their own distinct style. That doesn't make one better than the other. Like, you have to keep, when it comes to kids and like facilitating art and learning and love, especially when the parents do it, and the parents have a different skill level, you have to keep up with the understanding and the encouragements and the compliments that are thoughtful. Not like, hey, that looks great, but hey, I really love how you balance this color out, and I really love how you put these 2 ideas together, and you chose really interesting subject matter that I've never drawn before, so I wouldn't have any idea how to do that. Like, really thoughtful, constructive compliments really go a long way towards encouraging children to keep drawing, keep creating, especially if a parent does it in the house. And why doesn't my art look like your art? It's never going to, because we're 2 different people with 2 different preferences and 2 different life experiences and two different histories with it and two different interest levels. Like my interest level doesn't really range to monsters, or beasts or beings or aliens or any of those things that, you know, some folks like. Is that an eye? Can we call it an eye? I don't know. We're calling it an eyeball. Oh, it's gonna get weird. I know, and it's where I'm at in this challenge. So to not get too bored, to not get, I don't know. It's just gonna be strange from here on in because I've done all the normal stuff for days in a row. Like I've done combinations. I even broke out my acrylic paint and painted with a, like a, oh God, what are those things called? Oh heck, I'll throw like a palette knife. Sorry, I have a plastic palette knife. See, and I even tried colored pencil with ink. Like I've been trying to really vary this up. Again, monochromatic. Silver, I never draw with silver. It's just, we've come to the part of the program where I've done over 30. And once you do over 30 of something happens. Something breaks inside and you're like, I gotta break free. I gotta do something different and unique or I'm gonna get bored. And the object of this challenge is to find new and weird ways to draw the same thing over and over and over again. And I do animals. I'll do tons of animals, but every day I'll pick a different animal and that keeps it fresh. But doing a dog 50 times, even though it's different breeds. And it's this challenge seems to be very inclusive. Like it's lots of different breeds from around the world, and I'm definitely here for that because I'm learning about a bunch of different dog breeds I knew nothing about. So I like that. I like that education proponent because I definitely fall down the research hole of what is that? What does that do? Why does that dog look like that? What is the point of that dog? Like, where's he from? Oh, that one hunts boar? Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know they had dogs that did that. So it's like a little bit of education for myself as well, which is kind of cool. Never stop learning. Never stop learning. And it's one of the joys of drawing different things is I'm looking stuff up, reading about things, going, would you look at that? Of all the things I didn't know. That one's now on my bingo card. Oh, my bingo card's full. So, yeah. This is where I'm at with this challenge. It's definitely stretching the limits of my patience and where I'm at. And September is kind of a weird month. We tend to have, I won't say late summers, but I would say the weather is more palatable in September. So what happens is it starts to warm up around June, July, but that's when the winds come and it gets super, super windy. So any like outdoor, like painting project, for example, that's really specific. My outdoor painting projects of painting things of our house and all the different stuff I need to paint, I can't do it in June or July or August because the winds are just too high and it blows stuff into wet paint. So September's the month, and if I don't do things in September, it's literally going to roll around to next year. No pressure. So I'm really trying to figure out how to get some very specific outdoor chores done that have been long since coming. And the sun is kind of out. It's been out for about 10 minutes. I expect only about a half an hour of sun today. It's supposed to rain Monday. So I don't know if I'm going to get my painting stuff done this year, which is kind of a bummer. I really don't want to wait till next year, but I can't have the paint be too tacky and sticky and never dry because that's when all the stuff flies into it and it becomes installation art, not a painted house. So we shall see what happens with all of that. And then I never buy enough paint. I always underbuy, and that's like a thing with me. And I always tell myself, don't do it. And then I do it anyway. So that's where I'm at. That doesn't even look like a dog. you know? And that may be one of the things I incorporate is like how little it can look like a dog and I still call it a dog. You have to believe me on this one. Just go with me. Just embrace it. We're gonna pretend together. If I still call it a dog and I throw it up there, will people accept it? It's not for you, it's for me. I have to get weird with it. Oh. And this pencil really like gets dull fast. They're so good at blending. Don't get me wrong. The artist grade pencils are really good at blending, but they're so soft. You lose your pointed tip really easy. This is a Mobius Rupert brass sharpener. I have a couple of these. I really like them. I have extra blades. This one has the double hole, like the big one and the tiny one. And then this is a bullet, but they're heavy. They're very heavy. So I don't really pack them up and take them places because, well, I don't really go a lot of places with my art anyway, but I would never do that. Like brass products are too heavy. But I like that I have the extra blades and stuff so I can change that out and keep going. I used to do the Cum. There's like a silver pencil sharpener, K-U-M. I took one drafting class in college and those were the pencil sharpeners they had. But it dulled pretty quick and I couldn't change the blade out. You know, depending on how much drawing and sketching you do, you can really put some of those things to work. So, yep. Okay. And again, what's best is what's preference. I like showing little things, like this is the Pentel cap erasers. It's a high polymer. I really, really like these. We use these for homeschool too, as well as art. Not all colored pencils will lift. A lot of them are staining and dyeing depending on the pigments, especially reds. My Carmine Red, it's the luminance. Once you put that down, you're it. That's it. Hope you love it. We're not going anywhere. So that's just something to be mindful of. Like some of these will get lighter with an eraser and some of them won't. But if you're looking for, and I know it's early, like September is pretty early to talk about Christmas and holiday shopping and stuff. But if you're looking for little tiny ideas, or you're doing a budget this year, but you want to give the gift of art to others, a really nice pencil sharpener, some really nice erasers, just a couple colored pencils. Like these sets are really, really expensive, but you grab a couple colors and attach it to a nice sketchbook, like with really pretty twine or ribbon or something, and that makes a really nice, thoughtful gift. You're still giving like a high quality gift, and then you're still sticking to a budget as well. So, I don't know, this video is all around the map, but if you're doing a low-buy art supply, I'm going to go out on a limb and say like budgeting is kind of one of those things that's important to you, and that may hold true for holidays as well. So when thinking about holidays and some of those things, or stocking stuffers, or little tiny gifts, or maybe you're doing gifts to people that you just appreciate, or in the community, or whatever, you know, a really nice pencil extender can go a long way. I only have one, so to have more than one would be nice at some point. Like there's just a couple things that are smaller that are pretty budget, but would get a lot of use out of them. Especially if you know the person draws with pencil or colored pencil and they really want to get longevity out of their stuff. This doesn't look like a dog. Oh, I'm here for it. It's so weird. Let's see. Really good quality pencils. I like the Mitsubishi Hi-Uni. Those are so soft. So soft. It's such a nice pencil. You buy one, like through Jet Pens. You'll have to figure out how to meet their shipping minimum. Maybe with a nice sketchbook, one really nice graphite pencil, one really nice eraser. That would be a really cool gift that, you know, encourages art. Maybe you're buying something for yourself. Maybe you're doing a birthday. I don't know. I find sometimes like there's just reason to buy people gifts, you know. Teacher Appreciation Day, those are things. I don't know. Buying art supplies for classrooms. That's always a really nice gesture, especially with the budget in schools and stuff. It can be really difficult for different classrooms and things to get some really nice art supplies. And I know they lean more towards like the Crayola products, especially crayons with like kindergartners and stuff. But you can ask the teacher, like, hey, especially as they move up to higher grades, like, what are your thoughts about a different quality of this product? Because a lot of the Crayola stuff just doesn't encourage blending and continuing on. Like, a lot of that stuff's kind of chalky and it's not light fast and it's hard to blend. So finding different grade products can kind of encourage kids to keep going with art. And I know, like, you asked me what my favorite subject was in school. It was always art. So in high school, in elementary, and junior high, like that was it. That's what carried me through all the math that I hated and the spelling I should have done and never did. Yeah, art really got me through that. So, and it kept me inspired and it kept me going to school and kept me interested. So I think it's important to facilitate this stuff, you know, with different generations and children, and just being as encouraging as we possibly can be. And one way to do that is just a little bit higher quality of supply. So my kids all have the Winsor Newton Cotman. They all have little pocket sets of watercolors so they can mix, and it's not Crayola. No shame to Crayola. Crayola is super budget. Everybody has to start somewhere, and that totally helps. And it's a lot of fun. And you can take their markers that are water soluble and use them on I would use an inexpensive watercolor paper and add water to them and make a faux watercolor out of them. I know. There's weird things you can do with some of their products, and just get funky with it and try different things. But it's not for everybody, and I just think if we're going to inspire the next generation and keep folks loving art and wanting to create, and some of the like stress benefits of having this be a form of like self-care and something you give back to yourself, and how it helps and inspires you, we can create different ways for that to do that for other people as well. And I love giving art supplies as gifts. I just have to be like cognizant of nothing's for you. This isn't about you. And just remind myself that, you know, I'm still on my low-buy art supply journey to keep myself in check. So I'm buying the things I use, I'm buying the things I love, I'm buying the things that I get the most use out of, that give back to my art, that don't discourage my art. Because I've bought some art supplies in the past that I don't feel lean towards the style I use, or the way I create, or the quality that I enjoy. So that can be really difficult. And you're like, well, that's been sitting on my shelf for how long now? And I just don't pick it up, and I just don't use it. So when you force yourself into a low-buy art supply, as one does, I apologize for the loud cars, you really start to make the hard choices of research and sitting on an idea and really thinking, is this a need? Is this a want? Is this something that I will get a good use out of? And I have to look at sketchbooks, because those are my biggest temptation, and I have to say, okay, but I'm going to only use that for a month. Like, ideally, most sketchbooks I fill in a month. So if I'm looking at that in those terms, then it's a month of use for what? A decade's length of storage? And when I start looking at things in terms of that, it really changes some of the products I want to buy. There have been some like fabric covered sketchbooks. I was like, ooh, that's pretty. Yes, yes, please. And then I have to think about, okay, but after a year or two, with our humidity, and that's fabric, could there be a mold issue? like you're only going to hold it for a month and maybe flip through it a couple times throughout the years. And then what? What happens to the quality of that fabric with the moisture, with sitting in a stack of other sketchbooks, and it's going to need to breathe. It's going to need a higher airflow. You're not going to see that cover. You're paying more for a cover you're only going to look at for 30 days. And then, you know, 5 years later, like, where's the love with that? So that's kind of a really strange thing to think about in terms of, okay, it has a blank page. Does it allow for wet media? Does it allow for dry media? What does it allow for? What's the thickness? Is there a design? Is there a grid or a graph? We know I'm not a fan of that. For illustrations, drawing and sketching is fine, but for illustration quality, I don't like drawing across graphs or grids. Looking at all those things and then going, okay, now let's think about storage. We're going to store this for a while, and we may not even get to using it this year or next year, and it may sit. Is there sizing in the paper? Will it go bad if I don't use it in time? Like, all these things need to be thought about. And when I start looking in terms of storage and not of creation, a bunch of things I really wanted to buy, I no longer want to buy. So it's because I don't think they store well. And I have to think about that stuff. And maybe you don't live in like a high moisture area, which that's cool. I need to sharpen my pencil again. Our humidity is just like, it's around here. Let me check the weather and I'll tell you what our humidity is doing today. Let's talk about it, because we're already losing our sun. So we've had sun for about 40 minutes. Let's see what our weather is doing. Okay, so it's, we have 7-mile-per-hour winds. That's nice. Okay, so it's 64 degrees and it's 77% humidity. That's not bad. I've done yard work and worse. And it's one of those things where I still have to wear a hat. Because there's not really sun, but it's not completely overcast. So you've got to protect the face still. I need a nose. This isn't going to work without a nose. Yeah, and then making sure I hydrate, because with the humidity comes, you know, sweating and stuff, especially if I'm moving around a lot. And we have been cleaning up the backyard. The backyard's really hard to clean because of the forest. So clean is kind of that's a subjective term, but you know what they did? I'm going to tell you what they did. They planted ivy. Everybody grown along with me. They planted ivy, an English ivy, as a deterrent for erosion, like erosion control. Not the thing to do. And I don't know who did it. It was planted, oh gosh, over 50 years ago, looking at the amount of ivy. And so we have to sort of beat back the forest. The forest tries to claim the land. We have blackberries. Again, we didn't plant those. Those have been here for decades, at least, probably 40 years. And we just have to sort of contain, accept and contain. And so I constantly dig blackberries out of our lawn that pop up, because they send runners really far. The ivy I have to clip back. I have to clip that because it'll climb up the trees and try and choke the trees. And our trees are massive, so if those fall, yeah, the branches are called widow makers for a reason. Like you don't want a branch falling, let alone a whole tree falling. So we gotta have to kind of like go through and clip back the ivy and keep the situation as clean as possible. But it's a never-ending like battle. And if you go a whole season, like if you just let the rains come and you don't do any pruning while it's raining, then when it stops raining, it's a lot of work. we weren't originally from this area, so when we moved here, I didn't realize the amount of work people do in the rain. We get so much rain that if you don't do work in the rain, like, it'd be a nightmare. And I didn't realize that, like, people mow their lawn in the rain. We don't have a lot of lawn left. We got rid of all of it in the front and just gardened our front because that's allowed where we're at. But yeah, it blew my mind. Pouring concrete in the rain. Yeah. Because they had to do it then and they couldn't come back later and do it. So they poured concrete during the rain. I will tell you it created a really cool pocked texture in the concrete. I will also tell you it took our neighbors, I think it was a couple months before it dried. So they had to just keep stepping over that area for months and months and months. Rains doesn't stop a lot of the yard work. So I've kind of tried to adopt that rugged attitude and lifestyle of it still needs to be done or the amount of work later is going to be a mess. So I will prune and clip and clean up and all the things in the rain. Just make sure you have a decent rain slicker and, you know, waterproof shoes and stuff. I use snow boots. I use my snow boots for a lot of things that aren't snow. We do get snow. It does snow at the beach. That is a thing. It doesn't happen all the time. Not every year, but it's happened a couple times, and we've lived here about 6 years, so it is a thing that happens once in a while. My feet get cold. And I noticed with rubber boots that they eventually like crack and split. So I just switched to insulated snow boots that are waterproof, and the longevity is better. And I've even gone to the beach in snow boots because my feet were cold. And that is a huge lake workout. If you are interested in weird workouts, hiking through the dunes is a good one. Hiking through the dunes in snow boots is even better. But yeah, gardening in the rain. So I just can't do any painting because I don't want branches and bugs and, I don't know, plant detritus drying in the paint. It just wouldn't look good. So I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. And in January, we're planting some more trees. We're getting some bare root apples, and I'm really excited about that. I think I've cleared my calendar for it. Can you kind of see eyes? Kind of, like, I don't know if you could see eyes or not. Anyway, I've cleared my calendar for bare root trees. So we could have a little mini orchard going on with the apples and the pomegranates and the figs, and then we get to our shrubs. Oh, gardening. It's one of those things that's become a really good hobby of mine, because you kind of lose art as a hobby when you make it your job, which is why I do all the sketchbook filling, because this is something that I choose for myself. But another great one for me is gardening, and I can choose to design things. So making sure my orange flowers pop up with my blue ones. Oh, hold on. Because orange and blue are like complementary colors. Purple, yellow. So I use color theory in my gardening. And I totally would show you a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to dox myself and show you where I live because some of the plants I have are really specific. Like we have a purple flower section. I can tell you that. We have a purple flower section for my youngest daughter because purple's her favorite. And we wanted to do something really cool to like surprise her. We made sure to plant all our kids' favorite plants and flowers. So there's representation of everybody in our gardening. I know. It's kind of strange. We dig it. We totally dig it. But yeah, I've just been carrying my love of art and design into how we garden and how we create and how we landscape and layer the plants and the colors we choose and all the things. And it's been fun to sort of incorporate art things into our yard, which I get really interesting comments. If I'm out there working, people stop by and ask tons of questions. I have everything labeled because I can't remember. Tired brain. So we have really cool plant labels and stuff. I can link those if you want a really good waterproof plant label that doesn't fade or crack. Again, like, we have to be really specific with the products we use because some things will rust, other things will just fall apart, and we're kind of doing this for longevity. We want this stuff to be around a bit longer. So, yeah. Gardening is a hobby. If you don't have a yard, potted gardens are awesome. Start with a little pansy or like a viola or something. Those are also edible, and you can put them in your salad. Sometimes we flatten them and we'll put them in a skillet and pour pancakes over them, so we have flour pancakes. They're not sweet unless you sugarize them. And there's ways to like do that for cupcakes and stuff. Sugar your pansies. But those are a fun thing that do well in a pot. Like one pot, maybe you have one window that gets a little bit of sun. I've grown pansies in the wintertime and done okay. It's just, they're slower. I've also done morning glories in a pot. You don't get quite as many flowers, especially if you're doing like the purple ones. Those aren't as prolific as the blue ones anyway. Just make sure you're doing the annuals and not the perennials that fill in, take over, and then rule the world. Some plants like to do that, so just be really careful. Annual just means it's there for the year. Sometimes they'll reseed themselves. Some plants do that, and they'll call them like a semi-annual because they reseed. Like they'll drop the seeds and then pop up again next year. Or perennial just keeps coming year after year after year as soon as it warms up. So be careful what you stick in the ground. That's a perennial. Because if you don't love it, you could have it forever. We have that issue with nasturtiums, which is another fun edible where you can make nasturtium pesto out of the leaves and the flowers. The flowers have kind of an oniony flavor, and they're really, really pretty in salads and stuff. I like edible flowers. I think it's just a really cool thing to eat your landscape. But the way and the temperatures and how we have nasturtiums, they never die back. We created a little microclimate in our front yard with how our fence is set up, so they never really die. And they bloom through December, even with the frosts and the colds and stuff. So we have to be really, really careful, or we'll have them forever. And that's not a thing I want to do. So it's the same with like planting mints. Be careful when you plant mint. I know chocolate mint's amazing. And there's lemon mint, and there's tons of different types, but those also fill in and take over and rule the world. So you have to make sure that that's something that you're signing up for and your neighbors don't mind signing up for. 'Cause some of these things you can plant and then your neighbors have it too. And they're like, oh, well, thank you, neighbor. You're welcome, neighbor. I need to move on to another color. This isn't looking very monochromatic to me. It's just not. We're going to put some more greens in here and add a little bit of depth and intrigue here. I don't know. I have to get weird. I have to get weird or I'm going to get bored. This is just a lot of dogs. I'm not going to want to draw dogs for a while. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a subject matter I cover for the rest of this year. Maybe some cats, though. Maybe do some felines. I have to blend this out better, but you get what I'm going for here with my color scheme. I have no problem like blending Faber-Castell with the Caran d'Ache. Like, they're both such a high artist grade that they blend fine together. They're friends. So you can kind of see the dog coming together. He's just weird enough to be wonderful. Oh, all dogs are wonderful, aren't they? Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you go. This was just rambly. We're gonna ramble on. Hopefully by next weekend I can present a different project and we can talk about something else that isn't dog. In case you're burnt out. In case you're looking for something else. So I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. I hope your week is wonderful, and I will talk to you later. Bye.